Nothing is more frustrating than getting insta-downed by an enemy who absolutely beams you from nowhere. And getting knocked right away like this and having to watch your team is the most upsetting thing in the game. What's up guys, it's Valued, and today we're going to talk about some great ways to help you avoid this happening to you, and some techniques you can use to take less damage and stay in the fight longer. So with that out of the way, let's get right into it. First, we've got to talk about just how important it is to take as little damage as possible. Getting cracked is basically blood in the water for a lot of teams, and if they get you low, they're going to look to capitalize on it. Taking large amounts of damage can really accelerate the fight for your enemies and lead to your squad getting collapsed on. If you're low when this happens, well, likely you're going to go down. And even if they don't push, it takes a lot of time to pop a bat or other heals. And this time, you should be holding angles and dealing damage with your team. Not to mention, you have a limited number of heals, and depending on the game, you can definitely run low if you're carelessly taking damage. You should be prioritizing avoiding damage as much as dealing it, because the more you can avoid, the more damage you'll deal as a result. While you shouldn't be playing scared or passive, you should always keep your survival at the top of your priority list. Just remember, you're no good to anybody if you're down on the ground or very low on health, so always playing to keep your health from getting low will keep you involved in every situation. Now, that being said, let's talk about some ways to do just that. When you're taking a fight, you should always be strict about what opportunities you take to deal damage, move to different cover, or really just do anything. Every fight has windows of opportunity that come up, and they could be anything from an opponent reloading or ducking behind cover to them starting their sprint animation or using an ability. Using audio cues and your vision on the enemy to pick the right timings is something that takes a lot of time on the game. But the general idea here is simple. Only expose yourself if you have one of these windows. While you can peek cover and return damage while an enemy is shooting at you, oftentimes taking these brute force fights can lead to you taking an absolute ton of damage that you don't need to take. Rather than just full on challenging them and trying to win the fight, wait for an opportunity to present itself. If you need to throw a couple of quick peeks and shots to get them to react, then do that. But you really want to avoid a square gunfight. While you very well might win it, you're looking to take as little damage as possible because you potentially have two other squad members that you have to take on. What you're looking for is to wait for them to sprint into the open, over peek looking for an angle on you, or reloading their weapon after spraying your way. By doing this, you'll have free damage windows that you can capitalize on. And while they may get damage off on you, they'll always be starting from behind in the fight, and you'll either get a knock or get back to your cover before they can react. These windows can also be used for repositioning yourself, popping a heal, or throwing a nade. Try playing your fights with this sort of a mindset instead of just taking even gunfights with your enemies, and you'll be surviving games a lot longer. This is how you see all those top level players pulling off 1v3s, because if you take those even fights, you're destined to take too much damage to win the whole encounter. And if you find yourself not being able to capitalize on these windows, or you're flat out just struggling in gunfights, then you have to check out ProGuides.com. There, you can find some of the best players from around the world ready to help you whenever you need it. If you haven't tried coaching yet, I seriously recommend it because it saves you a lot of time struggling on your own. If you want to improve fast, then make sure to check out ProGuides.com in the description below. So, another great way to keep yourself from getting beamed is to always have a plan if you run into trouble. As you're moving around on the map, you should always understand what cover is nearby and get ready to utilize it instantly if shots are coming your way. It's easy to get lax when you're running around the beautiful biomes of World's Edge or Storm Point, but this is where so many potentially great games come to an early end. No matter where you are on the map or how late into the game it is, always understanding what the surrounding cover options are, from buildings to rocks to inclined hills, you always need to be ready to break line of sight with an enemy and get stabilized before taking a fight. It's easy for teams to close gaps on you quickly with legends like Ashe, Wraith, and Octane, so don't get too comfortable thinking you're always safe and getting caught off guard. Another time you can't get comfortable is when you're peeking for damage. When you go to engage an enemy, you need to be strict and fast about how you find an angle. We touched on it a little bit earlier, but I want to go more in depth about how you should be peeking. If you're peeking out of cover, you don't need to swing out wide into the open to find a shot. Rather, peek tighter on your cover, whether it's a rock or a doorway, and don't expose more of yourself than absolutely necessary. Not only does it take more time to take these wide swings, but it makes you easier to see and will have you further away from your cover. You want to be as close to your safety as you can while also having a clear line of sight at the enemy you're trying to shoot. But guys, trust me, you'd be surprised how tightly you can actually hug your cover and still have clear shots in most situations. This will often make you a much harder target to shoot if you have a good head glitch or doorway to use. And being more reserved with these peeks is going to help you stay healthy longer so you can keep dealing damage. Alright guys, next up we have movement. I know you guys didn't think we weren't going to talk about this. But without making this a movement video, let's go over some of the primary examples of how to use your movement to avoid taking damage. The most common example of this is strafing. Quickly moving left and right in a fight can make your opponents miss some of their shots, and throwing in a crouch here and there can really make you unpredictable. Practicing your strafes and getting comfortable using them quickly on demand while still hitting your shots can make you really tough to kill. Even if you just force a couple of bullets to miss, that's oftentimes the difference between winning and losing a gunfight. While having a nasty strafe can really save you, it's definitely a last resort for when you're in a fight and can't get away from it. But let's talk about a couple other examples that are a bit more proactive. A slide jump can be a great way to engage a fight, allowing you to come through a doorway quickly, ready to gun whoever is inside. If you just sprint into a lot of buildings to take a fight, you are an absolutely easy target to hit. And this can have you going down in a hurry if whoever is inside is ready for you. But slide jumping into the fight is much faster and can give you that extra second to get the jump on the enemy. This is one of the easiest movement options, and this should be one that everybody is using. If you don't like to constantly go for some of the more advanced stuff, no worries. But you guys have got to be at least pulling off some aggressive slide jumps and using the more beginner movement techniques. Now, if you are looking for an advanced movement option that is a great way for entering a fight, then look no further than wall bouncing. If you're about to round a corner on someone, doing a quick wall bounce can make you come around that corner at a very unpredictable spot. I especially like this if you're about to double challenge with one of your teammates, because it lets you both challenge together and still keep clear lines of sight. Now, there's a ton more movement we won't touch on here today because this isn't a movement video, but the premise here is to use all the movement that Apex has to offer, and I promise you guys will see a lot of results very quickly. Like we talked about earlier, you've got to look for those openings when your enemy has their guard down and pounce on them. There are a ton of instances where you can use some sort of movement to spice up your approaches to fights, or get out of a sticky situation. If you want to keep yourself from getting killed quickly, getting comfortable with using movement tech early and often is the biggest mechanical recommendation that I can make. Another attribute that needs to be in your play if you want to quit taking so much damage is patience. You don't need to take every fight you see or instantly push as a solo when you crack a player. Oftentimes, these rash decisions are just going to lead to you getting singled out from your team and killed. The biggest way that most players take too much damage is poor positioning, and there's no better way to have poor positioning than being impatient. So remember, you should play with your team, address the situation, communicate your plan, and then make plays. Apex games are a long-fought game of strategy as much as they are skill, so don't be in such a hurry to put yourself in a bad position. While there will be a ton of decisions that have to be made quickly, as you play more and more, you'll be able to slow things down and have plenty of time to make level-headed decisions. So being smart with where you go and why, and always thinking about what the safest option is, will keep you from getting shot at quite as much. Now, the last tip I'm going to give you guys today is simple. Stay on the move. I'm not saying to literally be running around in the open, but make sure you're always a hard target to hit. If you're barricaded inside of a building, you should be doing some sort of movement to make yourself harder to hit. You never know when you might get rocked by a triple take, and getting in the habit of never standing still unless you're extremely safe will keep those hard-hitting weapons from wreaking havoc. Whether you're looting a box, scouting for enemy movement, or traversing a POI, making your movement unpredictable will keep you from becoming a free kill. So guys, taking less damage is all about positioning and creativity. And if you use what we talked about today, you'll be one large step closer to being unkillable. Now, I know, we all love focusing on how much damage we can do, but trust me when I say this, today's tips will have you dealing so much more damage as a result of you not dying as fast. So guys, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and sub to the channel. Anyway, as always, it's been your boy Valued, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.